Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here with podcast 212. I am so excited about today's guest. You see him already. Someone most of you guys already know and or sort of know, and that is Mr. Pardoe. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, I'm doing good. And it's Pardoe.
Pardoe. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
All right,
Oh,
that's
no
clarified.
problem.
First off, you have a very interesting first name, Blaine. Is there any
Yes.
backstory to that? Is that
No, my parents wanted to pick something that didn't rhyme with something obscene, so this is what they came up with.
Gotcha. I was gonna say I've never heard of anybody else with Blaine as a. Anyways, it's a good
It's
name.
a fun name. It's a
Yeah,
good name. People are always asking me what's your real name, because Blaine Pardoe sounds like a pseudonym, and
pseudo.
it's,
Yeah, for
you know,
a writer's name or something like that. I
yeah.
gotcha. Well, this is exciting. I'm not gonna lie. I've been a fan of your work and all the other authors out there in BattleTech since I was 12 years old. So,
Okay, now you're making me feel really old.
that's. Sorry, that's not my intention. I make my old
No, I'm just
co-host
kidding.
Darren. That's his job. But yeah. So I'm super excited to sit down and, of course, talk to you about BattleTech. And I think that's where the majority of listeners out there will know you from. My audience is BattleTech because
Sure.
that's and of course we have a lot to talk about. Some new stuff coming out, of course. But let me just ask you, how the heck? And you may have answered this plenty of times. How the heck did you get involved with BattleTech in the first place? Like, where did this journey start?
It started with the first tech readout. I had sent FASA a typed, and when I say typed, I mean this was back before computers,
Okay.
scenario set for their Star Trek role playing game. And they said, "Oh, this is great. We're going to publish it." And I was like, that was so cool because that was one of the first things I really got professionally published. I had a piece done in the Dragon once, but that was really cool. And they said, "But before we publish this, we got this thing called Battle Droids. We want to do some scenario sets and a tech readout. And are you interested?" And I said, "Sure. I don't know what a tech readout is. I don't know what a battle droid is. But if you're going to pay me to write, I'm in."
Yeah.
So they provided me a copy of the game and some background notes, which, we didn't have a lot of canon material back then. And I got to do a bunch of the original mechs and the original first tech readout. So this is my 35th year, 36th year doing BattleTech,
Yeah.
writing for the universe.
That's
So
amazing.
after that, every few months it was like, "Hey, okay, we got a new idea. We want you to try to do this, or do you have any ideas? Do you want to do that?"
Yeah.
It just kept snowballing,
Yeah.
and it's fun. I love the game. I love playing it. Last year and a half I've been playing MechWarrior
I
Online.
know. Yeah. I was going to
I
ask you
mean,
about that. Yeah. So,
I
yeah,
enjoy
I
every
see you in there.
aspect of the
Yeah.
game. You
Yeah.
know, so it's
Well,
fun. It's a great universe to write in. I mean, it was Game of Thrones before we had Game
sure.
of
Yeah.
Thrones,
Most
and
definitely.
it's just fun. And the group of guys I work with are phenomenal. And it's a really good team. And I've been fortunate to work with some really good writers over the years, and it's a lot of fun to do.
Gotcha. So you were given the ability to write a TRO source book basically for battle droids and then BattleTech. And how do you even tackle something like that? I mean, obviously you're basically creating something out of nothing, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
taking bits that they're showing you or something. Like, can you go through the process? Like, how was that for you as I wouldn't say, were you a newer writer or you already been established? What was
I've
that?
been doing a lot of writing in college, and I enjoyed creative writing. I mean, it was a lot of fun. With BattleTech, we didn't have a depth of background for the first tech readout. So when they said do it, they sent us photocopies of mechs.
Sure.
And the first one we did kind of a tryout. They sent us the riflemen, and they said, "Bunch of you guys, we want you to write up. Here's format you want. We want the technical specs, the detail of the back of the mech on how it works, etc., and then a few pilots."
Yeah.
But that was literally the entire
Wow.
guideline we were given. And so, like, a bunch of us submitted the same ones, for the same mech, and they said, "Okay, a bunch of mechs are in the mail to you."
All right.
And some of them had stats, some didn't.
Sure.
So the ones that didn't have stats, we were like, okay, we went and built the mechs using the rules.
Yeah.
So it was fun, and it was great in the early days because you didn't have to worry about canon. You didn't have to worry about, well, somebody else talking about this unit, because you were making it up as you went along.
Sure.
As we got along further, when you got into the era where I was doing like Comstar Sourcebook and some of the other stuff, you had to really watch what had been already established in the universe. It's become, I think it would be daunting for anyone to step into writing BattleTech new. And we've got some great new writers who are coming in, but man, I'll tell you, I would not want to come into this universe. This would be like jumping into Warhammer
Yes.
40K and trying to write in the
I
Black
was.
Library. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a good writer, but I would have to consume millions of words to get to the point where I'm comfortable telling stories in that universe.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that analogy too to war. Yeah, I was literally just thinking about that. I mean, the depth. I mean, whether it's uh, obviously stories or personnel connected, or the history, or like events that have taken place, battles. I mean, all that. But like little stuff like scale of like mechs and how that's discussed in a lot of the novels, or like
Oh yeah.
the sort of anthropomorphic means of like it's almost like a humanoid walking and stuff. If you just think they're just robots and you just start talking like that, then yeah, I can see where
Well, and
that
there's
would
stuff
conflict.
we've never agreed on. We had this running joke, and it came up again. It comes up like once a year among the writers, and somebody's like, somebody wants to know, new writer, what color are the lasers? And it's like, we have never like been able to land on that. And there was a standard back in the FASA days, but different writers have come in and done different, and we're just like, look, they're different colors, and you just gotta let
Yeah,
you don't. That's something you can't drill out, because the minute you do, you're gonna have to go back and rewrite hundreds of books
yeah,
to make it work. So don't go there. you know,
yeah,
every time it comes up, like Lauren and I laugh when it comes up, because it's like, look, this keeps coming up. You're never going to solve this.
yeah.
You know,
It's like,
we
good
all have a different
question.
standard.
Yeah, good question. Meh, let's
You
just go
don't
this
want
way.
the answer to
Yeah.
that.
Use your imagination. Just the answer would be like yes. Like yes. What are the colors? Yes,
yeah,
and just move
as
on.
long as you're not going pink, we're okay.
Gotcha. So, man, that's crazy. I mean, and of course, I've got to meet Jordan Wiseman now a few times because of MechCon, and just like being able to talk, and we've done podcasts with him, and but really, you guys got to set the tone of what he would say Game of Thrones, set in like the Cold War, like all these vibes. Did that did you take inspiration from that, from, I mean, obviously real world events, but like did that influence you, I mean, at all?
Absolutely. Even in the stuff I'm writing today, real world events kind of spill in. The key is to do it so that it's not right in a reader's face.
Sure.
I have not had anybody come out and go, "I saw what you did there in that book.
Gotcha.
You're pointing to this or that." I haven't had that yet, so I know I'm doing it very subtly. But a lot of that stuff comes up, and you have to factor it in. So it's great because we get together every few years. The writers get together. We have a summit, and we kind of go, okay, what are we going to do for the next 3 years? And we map out the storyline. So here's what are going to be the key events. Here are the novels that are going to drive those key events. Here's who's going to do those novels and the sequence that we're going to do them. And then that gets adjusted as we go. There's certain things that don't work out, certain things that work out better. Sometimes you get a novella that becomes a novel. They just, because of the scope change and stuff. So you kind of go down that path. So we did a writer summit last year, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, we got together in September, had a lot of drinks, did like 16-hour days,
Yeah.
hammering through, what do we want the next 3 years to look like?
Sure.
Because everything kind of, it's not just telling the stories from the novel, it's all the source books hang off of that, the tech readouts hang off of that, the map sets hang off of that. There's a lot of product that goes with that, right down to the miniatures with ironwood metals.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a complicated process, but it's a lot of fun. And it's great. You sit down and bash heads with guys like Mike Stackpole and
Sure.
Lauren and Randall, and you know, hash out ideas. And so we're sitting here arguing over things that don't exist, which is hilarious.
Someone fact checks. They're like, guys, what are we talking about? Like, what? Like, gotcha. Yeah. So, man, that's obviously from BattleTech at a young age when I got into it. It was interesting because I sided with clans early on, like that idea, again, being 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and that sort of idealistic warrior, be the best you can be, sort of, I don't know if it influenced me going in the military, but I'm sure a part did, of like that, got to strive to be the best. You want to be the best, and you got to prove, right? And that sort of, that young man in me. But it changed when I got older. I realized that, like, that flip. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you that before. Like, maybe someone has, but like as a reader, I now see the dire strait that, at least in the lore, the inner sphere was being invaded, and I make those connections to being an American, or if something were to happen to us or something like that, all that. I don't know. Has anybody ever like talked to you about that, as like that, how that's influenced them?
No, there's a lot of people that have been influenced by BattleTech, though. You hear it from them. It's like, I went into law enforcement because I liked the game. I met some good gamers, and they helped me kind of get through some hard times, and that helped me kind of decide I want a career where I could help people, and so you get a lot of that type of stuff. I think people did join the military in many respects. Not necessarily because of the clans, but maybe to prevent the clans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the clans are difficult to write, and they're complicated because they're the
Sure.
closest things we have to aliens in BattleTech.
Sure.
It's like writing the Klingons, in Star
Yeah.
Trek. It's that they are very much a Klingon society, and so they're tricky to do. And I think BattleTech influences people. It guides people. It definitely gets you into basic math skills, hands down.
Gotcha.
You have to you get into it, and the politics become very visceral. It amazes me when I was watching an online debate today about stuff I put in the new book, and people were just like, no, 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 this is what he meant. No, 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 this is what he meant. And I'm actually chiming in, going, no, this is what I meant, and they're like, no, no, that's
No.
not right.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm pretty sure I got that right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wrote it, but people are very attached to this franchise, and the intellectual property around BattleTech, the iconography of it. I mean, when you see a Mad Cat, instantly. You think 3050. I'm there. I know exactly where that's from. That has meaning to me. You see a Battle Master, you're like, okay, I'm old school. I'm 3025ing it now, and those mechs have that certain iconic look to them, and it clicks with people.
Gotcha. Now, let's talk about, I guess, the clans and the invasion. How was that? I mean, because that, it was a pretty monumental surge. I mean, one, how did you have any plans on setting that up in the first place? That may be a stupid question. Like, oh, well, they left. Obviously, you guys stated that earlier on, like, oh, Karinsky's army's left. And then was that on purpose, or did it just sort of like, oh, hey, we can actually use that for this large event?
Mike Stackpole and Rob Sharrett really had a lot to do with that early stuff, with the clans coming back. The way it was presented to me was, I got a phone call from Fazza going, okay, we got a big event coming up. We're going to have you come to a writers meeting, and we're going to lay it out for you. But let me give you the short version. Karinsky's people are coming back. And I was like, yay, that's going to be fun. And they're like, yeah, don't get too excited. They don't look or act at all like what you'd expect. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds fun. And I got early copies of Mike's novels as they were coming, and I was like, holy shit balls, this is, these guys, they have a different lexicon, a different thinking, and there were parts of it I always struggled with. I always struggled with the concept of bondsmen. I always struggled with Solhama warriors, kind of being used as cannon fodder and stuff.
The concept or just
Yeah, the concepts didn't make sense to me. And
gotcha.
we had this debate, the editor and I had this debate for the recent book where, and it's when you deal with the fact checkers, they're like, no, Saham are used, as cannon fodder. That's what they're used for. You can't have them teaching Zipcos. And I'm like, wait a minute. So Marshall Society, if anybody lives to old age in that society, they may not have risen in rank, but if they lived, they're badasses. you know,
Yeah.
that's you're not going to have galaxy commanders out teaching Simcoes.
Yeah.
They're busy running their galaxies. You're going to have Saul Hamid doing that
Yeah.
because you should look up to them. We don't treat them just as cannon fodder. I want to step away from that. And then the concept of bondsman works great when you're dealing with clan characters, I think. Although to me, the concept of, okay, well, you've conquered me now, so now I'm going to just completely sell out all my old beliefs and believe your stuff. That's hard. It really, I always struggled with when you had intersphere bondsmen.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you'd just be looking at them going, hey, sure, bondsman, whatever. First chance I get, I'm booking.
I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense if if it was another claner, like, okay, these are our rules. This is the society we live by. I guess that makes sense to that extent. But to the outside, especially if you're capturing a inner sphere, like, yeah, of course they would just try to get out of there as soon as possible.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you? Like, so. Let me ask you.
We always tend to tell those stories, the guys that stayed, felling Cal and stuff. But it's like, let's. There's been a couple that are coming up where it's like, let's tell the story of the guys that just say, screw this, I'm out.
Put more. It's like if you were captured by the enemy and the enemy told you to work for them at any moment chance, like, yeah, you'd split, like, especially if now opportunity, or you may play along to then take them out and then make her getaway. Like, yeah, it totally makes sense. So let me ask you, what I guess enticed you? What was it? The sci-fi nature, like, with the real world sort of implications, not as far as like reading into like history and stuff. Like, what made BattleTech intrigue you? Or at first was it, as you said, like, hey, you're gonna pay me, I'll write you anything. Like, what was the inspiration there?
Well, I am a military historian. I write military history books too. So to me, I loved the military aspect of it. It was solid. It was tangible. There's just a lot to that really drew me in. I like the fact that with BattleTech, every faction that we have, and that includes the clans, they have strengths, they have weaknesses, but none of them are the bad guy. It wasn't until we got to the Jihad and you had the word of Blake that you said, okay, these are just genuine, like, screwed up bad guys. There's no positive aspects to them. So you have fans out there that are Capellan fans.
Yep.
Die Hard. Yeah, both of them. You have fans that are out there for the Federated Sons, and they love their faction, and their factions have ups and downs, but none of them are perfect. And after all these years of warfare, no one's been able to take Terra and hold it, do those things. So it's a fascinating thing to me. I like that aspect of it, because if you have one faction that's just the bad guy, it's a little cardboard, and it doesn't feel right to me.
Gotcha. When you dove into the universe, how was it establishing characters, and like especially like characters over a period of time? Like, did you have an essence like, hey, this guy's going, he's gonna be alive 30 years down the road, or like, how does that work through a write? Again, I'm not a writer, I'm a moron, so like. How does that go through your process?
Well, when I first started writing BattleTech, I wrote stories that were based more on the story. They were plot-driven stories, and the characters were kind of there, and you fleshed them out, but the story itself drove you.
Okay.
Later years, I've been writing about good characters, because I found that as long as you've got a character people can identify with, that really clicks with them, the story isn't as important as the person. And I spend a lot more time talking about that, and we do plan out where these characters are going to go. John and I were talking about one character that we were I had created, and he was like, "Well, here's what I want. I want you to kill this character in this book." And I said, "No, no, no, because here's what I want this character to do in 5 years.
Yeah.
I want this character to be in this position." He's like, "Oh, I like that. Let's. Okay, you're right. We're not going to kill that character, but we have to kill somebody. So let's find them." You know,
Gotcha.
and so there's a lot of that type of stuff that we go through. There are certain characters that you just look up and you go, look, I may not be writing the next story, but I want to set these characters up so that if some other writer comes along, they can pick them up and tell a great story around that person. And that the readers are going to go, I know who that person is, and I identify with them.
Yeah.
Certain characters, too, that I looked at over the years, I tried to develop characters that were more closely mirroring where I was in my life and things that we hadn't seen a lot of in the BattleTech universe. Archer Christofori was one of those. This was a guy who rose up in rank, but wasn't, he was a major, and he was he was in a great unit, but he never really was this wonderful guy. But it wasn't until the Civil War and his sister gets killed that he steps up and he comes out of retirement. He's an older guy and says, look, I'm not going to put up with this shit. Let's organize a unit and go fight against Catherine Steiner Davian. And, so you go down that path, and it's like, that was where I was in my life. I was an older person. And I'm like, why are we always writing about these 20-year-old people in BattleTech? Let's talk about somebody who's already done their bit for king and country. And so what happens to that character when something bad happens? I have a story coming out now about a father who goes to revenge his son that some Jade Falcons killed. And because we've never told that kind of story. And I'm like, if I was a father and I lost my kid and stuff, and I was ex-military, I might just say, I'm going to go find that SOB and kill him.
Yeah.
So let's tell that story. And that's, again, it comes with, as you get older, you start going, well, let's tell some stories about older guys, because that's a little more appealing too for some people. And if you look at the fan demographics, I think it
that's our age
resonates
group
with some of the fans.
Yeah, and that's our age group. I mean, that fits me perfectly. I mean, being, military vet as well, like, what if there was a conflict now? I'm not the same person as I was before, and I look at things differently, and I hold things dear now that I didn't necessarily back then, right? So
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, it all depends on where I'm at in life and where I want to, what's going to tell a good story? What's going to be a character that really gives us some teeth to sink into, that we go, okay, I like that character. I want to know more about what's going to happen with them. The story becomes almost inconsequential to the character, I think.
Yeah. And one thing that I really like about the BattleTech novels, especially the ones that I really enjoy, is the character development. And especially like the small, even if it's, I wouldn't even say small plot, but it's like the focus isn't this huge part of the war or, these huge battles. It's like that intricacy of just like a few characters and a protagonist or antagonist and at least me personally. And of course the big stuff is cool too, but like, especially I feel like some of the earlier novels too, they had that benefit is things started scaling up, if that makes sense, especially the earlier ones. There were small merc life, small battles, and there was, maybe a big battle here or there, but it got bigger and bigger, especially as it got closer to the clan invasion, and then the clans invade, and it's this bigger. How was that for you? The scaling of the conflicts that were going on. Was that a fun thing to, dive into and weave around?
It gives you more room to play, which is great. The downside is you have to do a lot of tracking. And for the Jihad, and I'll give you a good example. For the Jihad, Randall kept this massive spreadsheet and said, here's where this unit is. And we did it for every unit.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're in this operation, they're on this planet on this day, they got wiped out here. This unit got wiped out here. You had to keep track of all of that. It becomes a little more logistically challenging
Sure.
when you deal with full-fledged armies. And it's harder to tell, I think, some of the battle stories. It's you tell the story from some perspective of somebody in a cockpit. You play MechWarrior Online, so you know what it is. If you're out there with 12 mechs, you could probably tell a good chunk of the story. But there's stuff going on the battlefield you're nowhere near
Yeah.
that ends up being the shit that decides who's going to win
Yep.
and who's not.
Yeah.
And you didn't see it, but you got kind of faint reports over the radio about it. So I found MechWarrior Online to be very helpful to talk about some of these battles, that as they go on, because it's very close to how the board game plays in some respects.
So in that regard, let's go ahead and dive in. I don't know how long ago it was, but I remember a Twitter message saying, "Hey, I spotted a guy named, Blaine Pardoe, and he's playing MechWarrior Online. Is this the real?" And then you were like, "Yep, that's me," on Twitter, I think.
Yeah.
Was that correct? Yeah, yeah. And then I ran into you probably a month or so ago, and like it was funny because I'm talking to my Twitch chat, and I'm like, my goal is to keep him alive as long as I can. And so like that was our goal. Like you're running around in your Atlas. One, how did you get into MWO? And two, I guess get in maybe how does that influence you looking at your storytelling?
It's a relaxer for me. I really enjoy it, and my call sign is Blaine Pardoe, and I have people all the time going, "No, if he ever finds out that you're using his name, you're going to be in a lot of trouble." And I'm like, I don't care. Trust
sure,
me,
bro.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great way to hide is doing it in plain sight. It's been a lot of fun. I find it very useful because the tactics vary depending on how you play, but there's always this collision point where it's like, okay, everybody mass here, and it's interesting because that's a very human nature, and I see that when we play the board game too. That you end up having a conflict, and everybody kind of concentrates on that one point, and it's interesting because I think there's a certain part of human nature, even with military training, that you kind of go,
Safety
yeah, I'm going to
numbers.
rush in there anyway, even though I've got the long range weapons. I got to rush in there because,
Gotcha,
got to do that. I actually reward myself with MechWarrior Online. So when I finish a chapter, I go play 3 games.
Okay.
If I finish something that I'm working on, I go and play it. It's a lot of fun. It does influence me a little bit because I like watching how players react. I love the guys who think that they're General Frickin' Patton. They get on there. All right, here's what we're gonna do. You guys are gonna go to the left. You're gonna go over here. I want you guys. And I'm like, screw you, dude. I'm not following your orders.
Yeah. Do you?
But
when you're doing the storytelling, do you visualize now your battles as it would be like an MWO, like lasers firing, and then you see? Does that
some
happen?
I do. I would say I'm more influenced still by the board game. There are times I break out the dice, put 2 mechs against each other, and kind of go, so damage wise, how long would it take for this kind of a combat round to resolve itself, and what would we see in terms of armor loss and stuff like that. Some of the concepts with MechWarrior Online don't work well for that. I think the PPCs are a little bit light in their kick.
Yep.
Compared to how they are in the board game.
Because of balance.
Yeah. There is, and I totally 100% get it. So, it's a trade-off, but I love playing it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a blast to play. I like it when I win, and I really don't mind it when I lose.
Sure. And it's funny, like reading in the novels, I've always given the novel experience more of a visceral, real life, like a supersonic round going down range isn't 15 points of damage. Like that's not real. Like I've shot main gun rounds. Like that's not how it works. Like, oh, I just did X amount of damage, but I blocked. No, it's that thing punches through, goes out the other side. And then, and I've always just sort of in my head. And when I'm reading, especially now that I am an adult and I've had those experiences, I read the novels in a completely different way. And I just feel like it's this, just the chaotic and destructive nature that would be going on with these weapons of war. And of course, I've got the images of, the new art as far as MWO. Now we have Catalyst Game Labs as well as with their version. Can we talk about that just for a second of
Sure.
art? Like how has that been? Did you have any say or influence? Like, yeah, and of course, how do you feel about the artwork transitioning from the old 2D line art to what we have now?
I like the new art. I definitely like the new sculpts for the
Oh yeah.
Mech Warrior Kickstarter. I mean, they're beautiful. I got my box today, so I was very happy with it. I like the art. The fans are very sensitive about that stuff. I mean, they if the Timberwolf doesn't look at the way they picture a Timberwolf looking,
Yeah.
they wig out. And I kind of view it in MechWarrior Online. Most of the mechs I can identify when I'm behind them.
Yeah.
I can tell a Highlander versus Zeus, and I know when I'm, to me, it becomes very much second nature. I think the artwork is great. I really enjoy it. I don't have a lot. I shouldn't say it. I used to not have a lot of influence with the stuff that we're building up to for Hour of the Wolf. I said, we're going to need new mechs. We're going to need, and this is, we talked about the tactical doctrine. Why would we be introducing new mechs? What's the purpose? So the Dominator, when we did that in, Divided We Fall, we said, this is the thinking behind this. And Brent would actually give me lined artwork and go, so what do you think? Is this what we're looking at? And I'm like, that's along the lines of what I'm thinking. And we did that with a bunch of new mechs that are coming out. So, I did get some influence on it.
Sure.
So that was fun. But, and I designed the first pass of the Dominator, and then Brent made it work better. So
Yeah.
you have to do that. There's some of these guys really, the way they min-max the builds on these mechs is absolutely incredible. So.
Yeah. And you see a lot of that in MWO as well. Yeah. But, well, I mean, of course, the Timby is my favorite, so I can't say anything. I'm very particular. I've talked to Anthony Scroggins so much. I had him on a podcast as well. I mean, Alex Glacius as well with his MWO version. And then we've had the old classic as well, the line art. And the line art back then to me as well, I mean, it was at a different age. I mean, a lot of the 2D stuff when it was originally done for the IS, I mean, it was 10 plus years of a leap to when the clan started coming out. I don't remember the exact time. Probably over that then. Yeah, it had to have been to where that line art. And the clans had a very distinctly different, some were more round shape and organic shape and not just like these. I mean, the original stuff, and I've been really critical of it. And to the artists that did all those, this isn't hating you. It's just, it is what it is. But the original light art was, yeah, it was what it is. But I still have these fond memories, like looking back and like thinking how amazing they were, and then skip forward, 15 years, and you see new designs, and you're like, yeah, but these are so much better. But yeah, we're fickle as a fandom. We're very fickle as far as if something changes, we're very. We don't like it.
I had guys tearing apart the sculpts, they're measuring them and comparing them against the previous ones.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop doing that crap, man. You're just going to give yourself an ulcer. These are the new sculpts. I like them. I think they're good. I like the stuff on MechWarrior Online too. I really do.
Yeah.
And I know people kind of chafe about it, but I'm like, come on. We got guys that paint the word boom or Karita on the back of their mech, and I enjoy that. That has actually spilled into some of my stuff too, because it's like call signs become a little bit more prevalent in my writing because of MechWarrior Online. There's some really hilarious ones out there too.
Oh yeah, paint jobs too. Like you'll see googly eyes on certain mechs, and it just makes you stop and that is actually sort of funny.
That is.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, some of the bolt-ons too, when you throw in the color coordination that they do, and some of the I don't know, the classic to me is the spikes on the Yen Lo or whatever. It looks like it's out of a Solaris, gladiator sort of thing, and yeah, I dig it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about BattleTech and something that I'm not very familiar with, and I need you to educate me a little bit. I went in the military sort of around the time where the books stopped, if you will. 3067 happened. Victor came back and lost his king. All that fun stuff. Operation Bulldog Serpent was just wrapping up. Basically, that's where I ended. And I have all the novels. And then the I'm going to say the word, and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about the Dark Age, the Jihad. A lot of people were caught off guard by that. Can you just sort of walk through the history there and maybe why decisions were made like that?
I wasn't involved in the decisions during that. It was truly a dark age for BattleTech
Okay.
in some respects. Don't get me wrong. I like the Dark Ages. It's an era. Okay. The Jihad, I'm not a big fan of. The
Okay.
Jihad.
And what time frame was that, the Jihad? Because we were talking about 3067 is when, Victor was coming back. I'm sort of, like I said, I need to get some catching up to do, but like the Jihad's like 30 years or whatever, because it jumped 70 years, right? As far as the new novels jumped like 70 years, right?
I don't remember the exact year we kicked off the Jihad. There was a lot of things going on. One was the release of the Click Mechs, for the Dark Ages.
Sure.
And they advanced the timeline to do that. So they did this big jump, which during that jump in the timeline was when the Jihad had happened.
Okay.
And the Dark Ages you pick up after that, where it's like, okay, what's happened is this formation of the Republic of the Sphere, which Devlin Stone built, which was around Terra and all the surrounding. It was a hegemony type, Terran hegemony type realm. He had built this realm in the middle and convinced somehow all the world powers and all the house governments and clans to disarm. Which my running joke is this game's called BattleTech. So anytime you start disarming, it becomes peace tech, and nobody wants to play that. Then the HPG network goes down. Devlin Stone disappears into retirement or wherever. Turns out he froze himself. But and the minute the communications goes down, everybody starts rearming, and they go to war. The problem was during that period, and I was kind of caught in the cusp of this as both a fan and a writer. The Click Mechs came out, and I loved them because I had young kids at the time, so I could play Click Mechs with them.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and we played huge battles with our friends. I mean, it was a blast. I enjoyed the Click Mechs, and I still have all mine. I thought it was great. The problem was the classic BattleTech fans felt like, whoa, that's the future, and we don't like it. We don't like the Click Mechs. We want to play classic BattleTech. And that's really during the period where you see WizKids and FanPro kind of coming in, and then later Catalyst going, fine, we will fill that gap, between the Civil War and the Dark Ages with the Jihad. We'll go explore that. And fans were like, okay, good. That means classic BattleTech goes on. But there was this hatred and resentment of the Dark Ages stuff. On top of that, and this was the hard part for me as the writer, Mike Stackpole wrote the first book that kicked off the Dark Ages. And after that, you see none of the old core of writers writing for several years. And I reached out to him and I said, at WizKids, I said, I want to write BattleTech still, so let's go. And I was told, well, no, we're going to hire real authors. We're going to hire guys who know what they're doing, because we don't think you've done a really good job with it.
Wow.
And the editor was kind of a bitch about it. And I was like, I've got all these books published. I've written a lot of the canon. I've written novels. Yeah, but we're going to get better writers to do this. And they brought in writers who didn't know anything about the BattleTech universe. Yeah. And the first few years of the Dark Ages novels, which advanced the storyline, were horrible. They were just a hot, steamy mess of weirdness.
Yeah.
Then the last few years, you got guys like Lauren Randall, myself, and a few others who came back, were brought in, and we said, okay, let's straighten all this stuff out. And we really started organizing it well. And it was just really kind of taking off and getting going, you know. So, you know, we've been working through that whole era, which is coming to an end shortly. We're moving on to the next era. So that's kind of fun. I think it was a dark time for the fans. I always tell the classic BattleTech fans, don't hate the guys who got in with the click mechs
Yeah, and
because
it was
they're
really popular. I remember it was very
yeah
popular, very successful. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. I was a little bit obviously younger, so I couldn't afford them all. But it was one of those where I remember that like the card game and stuff. It was quite popular. A lot of people played it. So
yeah, and it brought in new fans, and a lot of those fans are people who bought into the Kickstarter
yeah,
and bought into all the new stuff.
yeah,
So you know, don't trash it too bad because for some people that's their fond memories of
sure,
coming into BattleTech. Just
sure,
like there's people that remember the 3025
yeah,
era, this you know,
yeah. I
and
always
the clan invasion.
I always just wondered what happened because like from my point of view, it was like everything you knew was gone. Like the clans had changed fundamentally, given up like everything, your all your characters that you knew and loved were either dead or they were really, really old. So I remember like that was just sort of like it was definitely a departure. So obviously you guys have been writing new novels, and speaking of which, we actually do have a new one that you just came out. Before we get into that, because I'm really excited about it. The novels that you guys have been coming out, what, are we talking about? What kind of time frame are we talking about? This is during the Civil War.
These books
Just for
take place
context.
at the end of the Dark Era, or the
Okay.
Dark Ages. So it's 3145
There you go.
through 3151.
Okay.
Um, that's when these books will cover, and it will bring closure to the Dark Ages as well as several other major storylines, and lay the foundation for all the next generation stuff that will be coming. So we're introducing a lot of new characters, etc., that will be those heroic characters you kind of see and grow
Gotcha.
throughout the whole thing. Um, it's taken a lot to kind of get us to this, but it's really good, and it's you know I think for some fans they're going to cheer because hey, the Dark Ages is officially gone. It's like okay, but we're not just ending an era; we're kind of starting
It's
something new. And
new.
and the other thing this does once and for all is settle the clan invasion.
Okay.
The clan invasion began 3050, actually 3049 if you want to get technical. This is 3151, 100 years plus has passed.
Yeah.
We're going to get to a conclusion of the clan invasion
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
So we'll
I
see
mean,
how that plays out.
I never understood like how you would tackle like even back then. Like I understood maybe the necessary like idea of like, okay, you've had the same old, you've had this huge war, you've had this invasion of the clan, you've okay, Star League reforms, fights back. It's this like it's this cyclical cycle that I sort of made reference to using history. We repeat ourselves. Like you think we learn, but just like the Innisphere, like where do you go there? And then that's where like I would say the jump forward it does make sense because it in a way it gives you a fresh start, right? To basically say, okay, what's the next evolution? Because where else would you go? It comes back and it falls back into the same cycle again, and so like I can understand what they were trying to with the Dark Age and so forth. And
Sure.
and I've been told by a few people that funny enough, you said the later novels, but I've been told actually that the Dark Age got better, obviously, because of you guys getting back involved, I'm sure. So,
I like to think so. I felt like we were working off a theme and we were driving towards some direction that we're
sure.
finally concluding now. But it was a struggle for the fans, and I understand where the fans are at. So we're going to give a treat for the fans, especially now with the box set coming out. For the clan invasion, you'll be able to see where that goes. And really kind of see the foundation for things going forward. And I think that's going to be exciting for people. I hope.
Yeah. No, it will. I mean, like I said, speaking of which, uh, the resurgence of BattleTech in general, like how has that been for you? I mean, obviously from a being able to write again, like that's how has that all been? I mean, new games, new novels, new tabletop, new TROs, new source books. I mean, I don't know what else is in the works at Catalyst, but I'm sure it's probably more stuff too. So
I love it. It's been a great time. I retired early. I'm 57. I retired early last year in October. And I retired right at a time where it's like, hey, we need tons of fiction. And I'm like, yes, I finally have time to write this stuff.
yeah,
And it's been a blast. I mean, I have loved it. Pulled out some hair along the way, but it's been well worth it. It's been a really good time to be in BattleTech. I try to engage with the fans as much as possible on social media.
sure.
If they ask questions, I'll try to answer them. Sometimes I give a snarky little answer, but I'm going to respond. And I think the fans enjoy the dialogue and the give and take and things along those
Sure.
lines. The fans are starting to get hyped about stuff too. We've had a slow build up to the Hour of the Wolf in terms of fiction, and we're back to where fiction's kind of driving the universe. For a long time during the Jihad, everything was source book material,
Yeah.
and so you would find out the death of your favorite unit or favorite commander. It's like two sentences in a source book,
It's a
and you're
blurb.
like, okay,
Yeah.
I spent 15 years reading all these novels and getting tied up with this character, and you're just going to kill him with two sentences in a
Not even a
source book. Yeah,
paragraph. Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah.
people got pissed about that, and I
Yeah.
was one of them. I am a critic of the Jihad. But we've really, Catalyst has really made an emphasis to say, look, fiction's going to drive where we're going. So it's
Awesome.
going to be like the old days back when Mike was writing some of the anchor books and stuff, where it's like, boom, this is the big universe shaking event,
Yeah.
and everybody's going to hang their stories kind of off of that or based off of that, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for answering earlier too, like that you guys do get together and organize 3 years or 4 year, is that just to so there's continuity, and then on top of that, obviously just from a planning, I'm sure that helps dramatically. But let's talk about. I just got something in the mail yesterday, and I feel like this is the least I can do because you had the time to spend with me. Let's talk about your latest book, and that is The Children of Karinsky. Now, this arrived on my doorstep. This was actually a gift, which I'd like to say quick shout out to Tori. Thank you for gifting me this. This is awesome. Um, Tell me a little bit about it, and of course, you don't want to spoil it too much, but how did this
Well,
come about?
when we talked about what we're going to do with Hour of the Wolf, which is going to be the big pivotal book that will be the next big book, we had to have some background stuff. And to do that, we had Divided We Fall, which is Alaric Ward reaching out from Clan Wolf to Wolf's Dragoons saying, I'm going to need you on Terra. Then we moved from that to the next book, which was Rock of the Republic, which really told the Republic side of the story. Devlin Stone was back. We're preparing for a clan invasion or the Compellans. We're digging in. We're building new units, new mechs. We're going to fight them, on the beaches, in the cities, on the hills. We're going to
Sure.
win. And then with this book, it's really an origin story. It goes and looks back at the two primary clan characters, Malvina Hazen for the Jade Falcons and Alaric Ward for the Wolves, and starts with them in their youth and kind of comes forward about their different philosophies, principles, thinking towards the invasion of Terra. And we actually end with ships jumping into the Terran system. And it's exciting. I mean, it's a really interesting story. It gives you a good contrast between the two clans, because I think a lot of times we cookie cutter the clans, and
Oh
it
yeah,
helps
people
that
do.
we cookie cutter clan warriors. I mean, we breed them in bottles and
Sure.
put them on shelves. Um,
A lot
you
of
know,
people don't know that though. Is like if you have only played the video games or if you've only read a few, the it's just as different. I mean, you have clans that have cons that are elderly, but
Yeah.
yet Jade Falcon, Clan Wolf, Smoke Jaguar, and Ghostbear, you're not going to see that. Or older, in the different caste system, some castes are equal. Like that's how they look at it. Whereas some is, nope, warrior on top. If you're not a warrior, meh, we just don't. I mean, so there is a dramatic difference in the clans themselves. But if you don't read, I would say the source books would be the primary material for a lot of that stuff. You wouldn't know because some of the novels don't really dive into it as deep, right?
Well, and I wanted to tell the story of these two kids with a dream to go conquer Terra and forge a stellar empire,
Sure.
boy and a girl, and everyone should have goals.
Just take
But
over, the inner sphere. Yeah, yeah.
but when you go down that path, both these characters have been established in fiction already in the Dark Ages novels, and it's sprinkled over, I say, 8 or 9 novels that these two characters are developed. And I didn't want people to have to go back and try to find these out of print books to try to figure out what was going on. So you have to almost do this as an origin story. The problem is both of the characters, they're not good guy, bad guy. They are different sides of the same coin, one a little more intense than the other. And so what you really wanted to do is, how do we tell the story of those two characters? Well, the problem is neither character is real cuddly. They're not. It's hard to identify with those
Yeah.
characters, and so the way you do that is introduce the supporting characters around them, and they give you the insight as a reader as to who these people really are, and you kind of bond with the other characters as much as you do then with those folks to understand their thinking. So it to me it was a fun character book. The plot is a thin plot. It's an origin story.
Sure.
Some origin stories play out real well. You go to X-Men First Class, great origin story, movie. You watch that movie and you're like, okay, that's cool. I know where the X-Men came from. Some are like Wolverine.
Yep.
Like, okay, that's really lame, and like where that goes. So I like to think we're getting closer to the X-Men First Class type thing here. But I really wanted to introduce these characters so that when readers get to Hour of the Wolf, they all the stage is set by the end of this book. All the players are known. Everything is, all the cards are on the table. So when we get to Hour of the Wolf, we can deal with what happens when all of these forces come together. And that's going to be fun. It's a blast.
I feel like I need to read the other not like I'm one of those where like I want all the backstory. So like I'm gonna have to find the other novels. Like I said, I collected some, I would say, some of the Dark Age, but I never read them, which again, shame on me, I guess. But I need to go and dive into the ones, like I said, especially those end ones, because I feel like it'd be a disservice. I don't know if I've read the majority of the original BattleTech books, the majority of them, all at least once, but the majority of them at least 2 or 3 times, and some more. So, just because when you were younger, that's all I had or whatever, and until later on, I was able to collect. So, um, with this being launched, by the way, I love the fact of these are print on demand,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
so wish we could do with the older ones as well. Like I don't know how that works as far as rights and copyright and stuff, but like, man, just like, and I know some have,
Yeah.
some, and especially the ones that come like an individual, and then some have been like, if it's a trilogy, I know some have been reprinted and stuff, but like the print on demand is fantastic. Um, this in particular, for those that are wondering, is on Amazon. You can get it as a Kindle and the paperback here. I'll have links down below in the description, so you guys, if you're wanting to pick them up, and of course, you know that you're supporting that guy right there too by getting it. But so this is setting the stage for it would be like the culmination of, and then also the start of something new. Basically, that's sort of what you're
Yeah.
getting at, right? Is like this,
Yeah.
it's going to bring something to an end, but with every end, there's a new beginning.
And the scope of this is staggering. a typical BattleTech book in the day was 65,000 words. The old rock paperbacks,
Yep.
that you collected. Those are 65,000 words. This book that you're holding is 65,000 words. So it's the equivalent of the
Yeah.
old rock paperbacks. With all the rewrites and the changes we've done, it hasn't gone through its final edit, so I'm sure they'll cut parts out. Hour of the Wolf, right when I sent it in, was 169,000 words.
Yeah, just a
So
few.
it's 2.5 novels
Yeah.
worth of material. Because we didn't, this is the biggest event that we have done BattleTech wise, probably in 15 years.
Yeah.
And
That's huge though, because I mean, you
it,
guys are you're setting the stage for the tabletop. Everything, all the products that are going to be coming out. I mean,
yeah.
every no pressure, by the way, none whatsoever.
Oh yeah, I believe me, I sleep well. But and I've been loving how the fans have been posting up on social media what all their theories are once they're done with this book as to how this is going to play out. There's only one guy. One guy freaked me out because he pretty much hit the nail on the head,
Oh,
and I was like, but I didn't tell him, so
yeah.
he
has
doesn't
no
know.
idea.
But one guy was real close. The others, some of them, my first reaction is, where do you buy your weed? Like, and it's really fun because my editor, John Elfers, has been great. He's like, look, let's tell really good characters in this. I've got Tank Crew in the upcoming Hour of the Wolf that is my absolute freaking favorite, because I've talked to tank crews, talked to tankers who are together, and the dialogue between them.
You're looking at one. Oh my God, this is
Okay.
so weird. I literally was telling my wife, I was like, I should ask him why there's no like tank characters and that is weird, but awesome.
Oh, I've got these two Clan Wolf tankers they're just bantering back and forth during the battle. And it's all snarky little, like, yeah, you missed driving through that building. When I turn around, drive through it again. Yeah, maybe you can catch it the next time around. Shut up. Take your shot.
Yeah.
It's that kind of camaraderie that you get with warriors that you're working really close with.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can identify with that,
Yeah.
you knew when somebody broke wind in the tank who did it,
That was me. Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
It's just, there's that camaraderie and stuff, and we really captured it with those characters. Those characters are my favorite freaking characters in the whole book. And everybody who's gone through the draft has gone, I wasn't sure about this character. I like this character. These two tankers made it for me.
That's fantastic. That is so. Oh my gosh, that's so weird, because I was gonna ask you, hey, what's up with the lack of Yeah, well, there you go. Like that's great. I look forward to it.
We wanted to tell this story from aerospace perspective, from elemental perspective, from an infantry perspective, battle mechs, the super heavies, which are the 135 tonners that the Republic fields. We really wanted to tell the story from ground perspective, because it's this huge battle. Seriously, it's an entire battle. Two battles really for Earth, and when you're going through it at that level, you can't tell it at the top level. That's boring. That's telling Patton's story in the movie Patton.
Yeah.
The real fun story is the guys on the ground who are fighting, and we do that. And some of them make it, some of them don't. But there's some awesome things that happen. So, well, that was candy for everybody there.
I was gonna say that was actually a question that I got from someone, which was, have you ever had to kill off a character that you just had a really tough time doing it? Like you just really didn't want to.
In Divided We Fall, I had this character who was an old Wolf's Dragoon character. And he's talking with the Clan Wolf guy that's there trying to get them to come. His name was Doc Crouch. And it's based on, I've been incorporating in all my books the actual fans. So when I need names, I reach out to the fan community and I incorporate them in the books. Doc Crouch is an actual guy. There's a guy named John. Doc Crouch's call sign is Doc. And I love this character. He was old. He was gristled. He was a drinker. He got drunk while he piloted a battle mech. And he fought better when he drank, and he was that kind of guy, and I loved Doc. And John called and he was like, I think you ought to kill Doc. And I'm like, no way. Doc is cool. I can't.
Yeah.
That would tear me apart. And he goes, if it's going to tear you apart, imagine what it'll do to the reader.
Fans, gosh.
I was like,
It's
son of a
devious.
bitch.
Yeah, it's devious.
So I killed Doc. He got a good grief scene, and it was good, but it was like, and when we did the novella, The Anvil, they told me you're going to have to kill General Hasek Davion, or not Hasek Davion, but Kels Steiner. You're going to have to kill him. And I was like, his death really is a short scene, but I did the burial scene, and it's kind of, there's a scene where they literally like are doing Shakespeare, and there's a great line I threw in there that only Shakespeare could truly understand the clans. And they give this heroic speech, just like the Agincourt speech from Henry, the Fifth. We're going to go charge the enemy. We are a band of brothers. We have a very similar speech in there, taking his ashes and smearing them on their foreheads, before they go into the battle. And it's like this great motivator. It was like his death scene wasn't that big of a deal. The way that the leaders took it to energize the troops that were demoralized, that was something.
Yeah.
And I felt bad that I had to kill him to do it, but it was totally worth it.
It almost has like, the first thing pops in my mind is, of course, the warrior cast, but like almost like how the Vikings would celebrate their buried dead, and their actions and spur them on to victory, and like, hey, that's what just popped in my head when you were talking about that.
Absolutely. I love that stuff. And as a historian, I look to that stuff and go, how can I capitalize on that? Because that's what people would do. They have the same culture. They're looking back. What would they leverage from mankind's past to do that? We don't take enough time to really do that with some of the characters. But losing Doc was hard. I can't tell you. Yeah. But I get it. And it did have an impact with readers. I've had people reach out to me and they're like, oh man, I really, and I'm like, yeah, but this is war. So you're going to lose people you're attached to. And it's good that in a novella you got attached to this guy who's got probably 30 lines in the book, but you got attached to him.
Yeah.
You lost him. And that's good because you're now feeling the same thing the characters are feeling. So I like that aspect of it. I don't like having to kill characters, but after Hour of the Wolf, I've killed so many people.
Prepare yourself.
So staggering.
Yeah. I remember the one shocking moment. I really remember this legitimately when Operation Serpent, when Morgan dies. I remember putting down the book and I didn't read it for like 3 days. I was so pissed. Like I was like, and of course, I don't know, I'm like 15. I don't know, something like that. Like, it was such a big deal. I was like, why? No, this is bullshit. This can't happen, and just had to walk away and not read it for a few days. But yeah. So yeah, no, I get the, like I said, I'm a big nerd. Like I said, I've been engrossed in literally BattleTech my entire life, pretty much. Like, really, if we're honest, like, since you're 12 years old, I'm 36 now. It's just one of those, it's been a part of my life. So, wow, that's awesome. I did have another question. We already answered the how'd you get into MWO and how you play it and stuff like that. And with but do you have if someone comes to you and says, hey, I've been playing MechWarrior, or I play the tabletop, but I've never read the novels, where should I start? Do you have a recommendation for that?
It's really hard. First of all, there's so many, and to me, I always kind of go, what era do you like? And if they don't know, it's like, look, if I steer you, I'm either going to steer you to the Warrior Trilogy by Mike Stackpole, or I'm going to steer you to Bill's, Grey Death Legion trilogy. Sure. If you don't know, if you have zero background in BattleTech, you're going, look, I just want to know some of the fiction. I steer them there. I will always steer people to Bob Sherritt's stuff on Wolf's Dragoons. Those were great
Yeah.
books, and they still stand. I reread them not too long ago when I was doing my Dragoons novella, and they stand the test of time.
Yeah.
They're really good. And I like, if you want a good standalone book, you steer them over, to Bob Sherritt's books on Wolf's Dragoons. But if you start there, then you can kind of go, okay, that gives you enough foundational stuff about how battle mechs work and how battles operate. Go from there, and you can go wherever you want to go.
Gotcha.
If you like more of the political stuff, you do the Succession Wars. If you want to get more into blow stuff up, you can move on to some of the later eras.
Yeah. How much does technology influence you? Like, as far as nowadays, does any of that make its way into the novels at all? Like, or the vision of like where technology may be going right now, and do you use that at all in the novels, or at least stories?
It's funny. We had note computers before there were iPads. Of course, Star Trek had them too.
Yeah.
That was, some of we're kind of technology agnostic.
Okay.
And I say that, because if you look at some of the weapons on the board game, the ranges are hopelessly screwed up. And the amount of damage a machine gun does.
Sure.
Versus,
That's rules for a
missiles.
game, right? Yeah.
Just so you kind of have to go, look, there's a certain amount of hand wavium going on there with technology. You want to be careful not to try to tie it too much to stuff that's happening now, because you don't know what the trend's going to be. And BattleTech has proven this longevity. We're talking, this is our 36th, 37th year.
Yeah, it's going on. Yeah.
A BattleTech. The longevity of that is incredible. So you want to be careful that you don't dive down a rabbit hole that you're going to regret in 10 years.
Sure. Because you guys have been pretty grounded. And I guess that's what I was going to ask is like, I mean, even comparison to Eastern sort of mecha versus Western. I mean, you guys, again, sort of like how the mechs, obviously you do have mechs doing cartwheels in some novels, and they have these humanoid or animal-like movements. They're organic and stuff, but you guys they're not doing crazy like Gundam movements. I mean, you guys have kept, sort of reality of things out there. And I think that's captured a certain audience,
Yeah. Well, there's things that we still argue over. Camouflage is a good one.
Sure.
Every time camouflage comes up, I crack up. And that's where MechWarrior Online becomes very useful, because it's like, okay, I'm running at 97 kilometers per hour. Does it really matter what color I am?
Yeah.
I'm kicking up dust. I'm, doing all this stuff. And we spend a lot of time kind of talking through some of those nuances. But we try to keep battle mech, they're basically giant tanks. They're humanoid tanks in some respects. They're a lot cooler.
Sure.
I mean, I think, but they've got the same kind of feel. It wouldn't take a lot to morph them into World of Tanks. So I don't know. I like the feel of them now. I don't like. I miss with MechWarrior Online not being able to punch or kick.
Yeah.
Which I get, it's complicated enough as it is. I'm constantly looking around the freaking keyboard for something, but but as I say that, that's one of the cool things about BattleTech is it hasn't gotten into that whole anime kind of.
Sure.
We aren't doing cartwheels and stuff. And whenever we do something where it's not covered by the rules, we have a discussion about that.
Sure.
Like when Joanna killed Natasha Karinsky with jump jets, there was a discussion that was had about, can we really do that? And, fans may disagree, but some discussions were held.
Gotcha. Did you, by any chance, have any involvement or anything with the storyboard with Harebrained Schemes and their BattleTech game? Have you played that at all?
I did play it a little bit. It was okay.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I prefer being the feel of a cockpit.
Okay. Yeah. I
One
really
of the
like the
things,
story and
yeah,
the narration that they did. Yeah.
it was good. The part I didn't like is they added a whole new realm,
Sure.
and we had a running joke. We had the writers meeting about when we do the maps, are we going to put that realm on there? It's like no.
Yeah.
And there was a group going, well, we kind of have to, but do we want? It's
Yeah.
like, no, we're
Yeah,
not.
why couldn't you have just used what was already there? Like I could
Right.
see that. Like there's plenty of awesomeness that you but that is I will say that is one of the tough things. Like if you're trying to make a mark for something new and it's got all this history, it's very slippery of like, oh well, we want to do this unit. Well, that unit's dead, or like, oh well, on this planet, well, this is what happened on this planet. I can see where the difficulty lies.
Oh yeah.
But they could have just reached out, I guess, like to some extent, or even vice versa. But not to put you guys on the spot, Hairbrain. I was just asking a question.
No.
Yeah.
Hairbrain. Hey, they did a great job with it. Good characters. Decker always dies.
He
So
literally
yeah,
died.
I have played a little.
Yeah, Decker literally died on my first stream of, in front of like, I don't know, we had like 800 people. Yeah, just died. Um, Speaking of a narration or some type of like how the story is told, uh, if this is if there could be a movie, what would you like to see?
No involvement by Hollywood. Look, I'm involved with some TV stuff right now. Wherever the money is, they get to set what the course is.
Ah,
And I think that will upset fans because they won't necessarily adhere to the canon that we all know and love. They will take it a different direction. We've seen that with all the Marvel
sure.
movies,
Yeah.
all the DC movies. And I a lot of fans are always asking me, "Oh, I really hope they put it on as a series." I'm like, "You would regret that the minute it came out."
Yeah.
You know, the odds of you getting a Mandalorian level hit
Yeah. Very, very
are
low.
pretty slim,
Yeah.
and you know, I I I would love to see it. If we ever did it, I think I would love to see the fall of the Star League.
Okay.
That era
Take the
is,
pinnacle and that fall apart.
yeah, I would want to see Karinsky.
Okay.
I want to see Karinsky's Orion kicking down, the gates and apprehending Stefan Amaris, and I want to see the firing squad. To me, that's the culmination of it. If I were doing it, that story is one we haven't fictionalized a hell of a lot of, and it's the fall of Camelot. So that is a story that would resonate. And I think there's some great character stuff that can be done there. I've been wanting to write in that area for a long time,
Sure.
but that would be the one era I would do.
Okay.
And if they did that, as long as they kind of stuck to the basic, here's the 6 plot points you can't screw with,
Yeah.
that could be an awesome series. It could be an awesome movie.
Yeah.
I think people would be drawn to that.
Yeah. I've sort of said this on my stream and my viewers know this. With Mech 5 out there, the mod tools that are available, that leaves Unreal 4's like the whole cinematic tool set is available. And I've just sort of like wondered like why, because it'd be a MechWarrior 5 machinima, if you will, so, or like being able to storytelling. It's just a lot of work, I understand too, but like I'm just surprised some fans out there haven't been like, you know what, hey, we can make that work, because you could do characters, of course you could do fights or whatever, but for me, just like I don't know. I see the potential there, and I'm like, oh man. I'm a lot. I understand you like what you're saying. There's that hesitation though, because if it was to go down that route, that it would be bastardized to some extent. Like no matter what you do, it wouldn't potentially capture exactly what you feel it should, right, and represents what you should.
Well, I put it up there with Justice League. My entire life, I've read comic books. I love comics. I have always wanted to see the Justice League on the screen. When I finally saw them,
Oh
I wasn't. I don't want to say I was disappointed. That isn't what I felt. I felt let down
yeah,
because my expectations were way up, and what they delivered was somewhere in the middle. And I'd worry that's how the fans would feel about
Sure.
it.
What is that? Is there a term for that too? Like, is there? I mean, as a young person that plays a video game or reads a book or has an experience, we have this just this memory of this being awesome, and then you jump forward and it's like, oh well, the good old days. Is there a term for that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a weird. I can't think of any.
You know?
I've been experiencing it a lot lately. When I was doing a lot of writing early on, I was like, oh, I always wanted to write the big
Yeah.
universe-changing book in BattleTech, one of the big books. And I always was jealous when Stackpole would do them, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that. Now that I've done it, I'm like, oh God, I never want to do that again.
It's funny how that works. Huh? Yeah.
I need a few years to recover from all this.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's crazy. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to reading this, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to read it just yet because I want to do due diligence and read the other ones setting up this because I have this huge gap from 3067 to fill. And obviously I don't want to jump too forward, so I'll get back to you. We're going to have to sit down after you whenever. Timeline wise, this next series of events is this something with the next few years we're going to be looking forward to, or is this
The
something that
book
maybe
is done.
okay,
I know when it's coming out, but I'm not allowed to say.
totally understand.
But it is sooner rather than later.
Okay,
And there's some reasoning behind that.
gotcha.
This is such a big event that they're going to do some stuff with it,
Sure, yeah, hands
which I think
down.
is great.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
excited about it.
I'm excited because just gonna toss this out here. I have a theory, and you don't have to. Obviously, you can just sit there and look pretty. Catalyst is gonna do. I'm calling it now. They're gonna do another Kickstarter, and what not better to do than something along the lines with the new storyline jump? It just makes sense. And new minis, new artwork, new stories, new TROs. Just saying.
Maybe I don't know. I've heard some ideas that were batted around, but I haven't heard the official word.
Gotcha.
It's weird on the Kickstarter. The day they announced it, I was like, dude, I'll be happy to write for that. And they
Yeah.
let me write some of the material that we did during the Kickstarter and in the box and supporting stuff. But I'm not really in the loop on the Kickstarter. So I had to buy it like everybody else.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, in some cases, I think ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I feel like it's this crazy time that we're in because we do have all these BattleTech stuff. The table, I mean, like I said, I just got my box as well. And you do have this resurgence, and I think it means a lot to a lot of my viewers out there listening because of what you just said, which is hey, we're not only committed, but we know what you like, and you're going to get more of that. That's what I got out of basically what you said.
I hope that's the case, and the stuff I've heard is all positive. I think it's gonna. Different scenarios that have been run by me will appeal to different groups.
Sure.
So, it all depends. So there's a couple ideas out there that I heard that I was like, I really hope you guys are going down that path.
Gotcha.
Like I don't get a vote here, but if I had a vote, it would be B.
Gotcha. Understood. Well, I don't want to keep you for much longer, but and before
Sure.
I get going, obviously you write more than just BattleTech. If someone wants to find out more information, where do they go and how do they find you?
You can look me up on the internet. I'm all over the place. I have a blog that I do every week that depending on what I'm writing. So sometimes it'll be military history, sometimes it'll be true crime, sometimes it'll be, BattleTech. So, follow me on my blog. It's on WordPress. It's Blaine Pardoe. It's easy to find. And you can always follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and all those other places. I go to social media throughout the day, and fans ask me questions all the time, and I respond to them. Awesome. So it's part of it's great. I think what the fans don't understand with a lot of us that are writers is we're huge fans of this too. So we get geeked out. My grandson, when I got the box set today, he was like, "We're going to do an unboxing."
That's
And
awesome.
he was right there with it. Like, let's open it up. What's this? What's this? Let's take a
Yeah.
look at why was that in there? And I'm like, well, they threw that in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just as big a geeky fan as everybody else.
Sure.
So I get it. I understand where the fans are coming from.
Gotcha.
I just am allowed to test drive the car a little bit, mom and dad leave the keys out for me and I get to drive it around, but I got to pull it back in the garage at the end of the night so some other can go drive it.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you again. I got one last question before we get
Sure.
off here, and it's really important. Is favorite faction?
Ooh. Well, I'll make it easy.
Okay. All
Clan
right.
Wolverine.
All right. There you go.
Look, the Wolverines are great. To me, was a great story to tell in Betrayal of Ideals, and I love that story. It's early Clan. And I had written most of the original canon around the Wolverines, and so I knew that the stuff was all written from the victor's perspective. So when I wrote Betrayal of Ideals, it was from the Wolverines' perspective,
Yeah.
and that was fun. Some fans loved it. Some fans to this day, it's like dragging fingernails down a chalkboard because they're like, "You made Nicholas Karinsky out to be crazy," and I'm like, dude, he named his clans after animals wandering in his backyard. He was crazy. Yeah. But I enjoy the Wolverines, and the fans love it too. They speculate all the time on what's going to happen next. Are we going to see them and things? And now and then I sneak something past the editors and they get out there, and there's some stuff in the book that you have. There's a reference to the
Okay.
Wolverines that the fans have been all over. They're like,
Gotcha.
aha,
See?
we know something new now.
It's like the Illuminati, but it's Wolverines. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the victor writes history, and it's usually not exactly what actually happened. More often than the case, there's a lot behind the scenes that, of course, you're going to put yourself in good light if you're the victors, right? So,
Yeah. The only place I found that it wasn't the case, the Marine Corps did some histories of the Battle of Fallujah and stuff, and they do some really fantastic history books.
yeah.
And I thought it was really good because it was one of the few government written historical books that really offered kind of a well-rounded perspective. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like these weren't cardboard guys we were blowing up. This was what their thinking was. This is their strategy. This is their tactic. It was well done. And it was, I think, fair. But yeah, most of the time when we write the history, it's our version of it.
Yeah.
And we're in an era now where there's multiple versions of everything. So
Yeah.
you got to cling to what you believe.
Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been inspiring. It's been influential. Like I said, I'm super stoked because, like I said, I've been a BattleTech fan, and I've always wanted to talk to you and some of the other authors and sit down. And of course, now you're saying probably going to have multiple opportunities to hopefully maybe do this again in the future. I think it'd be awesome.
Hey, after Hour of the Wolf is out, we should have a talk.
Okay. It's a deal. It's well bargained and done. How about that?
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, again, I'll have your social media stuff down below so someone can find you. And of course, again, for those that haven't done so, latest book, Children of Karinsky, on Amazon. I'll have the link to the Kindle and the paperback for these, so you can put them up on your shelves and read them and share them with your children, because a lot of us are getting up in that age. So that's happening as well. Sharing it with future generations. That's pretty awesome.
That's fun.
So thanks again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Did you enjoy that podcast? If you did, make sure to slam that like button. Don't forget to do that. And of course, if you are new and you haven't done so, click that subscribe button. You won't be disappointed. A lot more content like this will be coming to the channel. So again, just want to say thank you for being here. Leave a comment down below. What is your favorite faction as well? And man, that was a fantastic interview and sit down and chat with Mr. Pardoe. And of course, I call him Pardoe, and he's like, it's Pardoe. Oh my gosh, Phil. Anyways, it's all right. You live, you learn. This podcast is supported by listeners and viewers like you. If you enjoy what I do, if you see value there and you have the ability, consider being a subscriber on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/NGNGTV. I stream Monday through Friday, 12 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And of course, I do have a Patreon as well. And again, this all comes down to what do you value the content as? Do you see value in it? And of course, if you're able to. Also, if you're going to be doing any shopping on Amazon, I have an associates link. What is that? It's basically where you click through it, you buy your items like you normally do, and I get kickbacks when you do that. Super easy. Doesn't add anything to your cost. And when you check out, it just kicks back to me when you do it. So just want to say thank you again for listening. Hopefully you found this fun, informative as much as I did. This was your local No Guts, No Galaxy MechWarrior podcast. Signing off for tonight. This is Phil. Until next time.